the evaluation. Okay, all right. The delegate in Singapore can be lay witness here because this is the best delegate we can get. Okay. So may I proceed with the proceedings, Monish?
Okay. Chair, sorry for the interruption. If possible, please can you send the link of the live once you have it? And also, I'm not sure if we're able to see on Zoom if it is live or not. Sure.
Yes, sir. YouTube is fine.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, so it's like yes,
Yes, just please allow me the ability to share. I cannot share. We're gonna do share screen to ensure that it's transparent to all. Yeah. All right. Can you see it? Please react or say something.
yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, Chair.
sir.
All right. Hello, everyone. Those who are not aware of me, I am Nicholas Banzuela. I'm one of the panelists. Outside of this, I'm one of the chairs for turning off my stop share. Okay, I'm just gonna go back introduction. I'm one of the panelists outside of this. I am one of the most frequent chairs of IMUN, and I think perhaps one of you are my delegates. So I sorry if I can't remember all your names, but in any case, I'll be the ones who will be taking time on the minute, on the minutes to make sure that we end punctually and not overdo it if necessary. Okay. In any case, that is my introduction. So I guess we can also move into the 5-minute introduction of even the participants, Monesh.
Uh, it's very beautifully said that the day is what you make it. And I'm really sure that some beautiful souls with cheerful faces are enough to make it a phenomenal one. So, hi everyone. My name is Aditya Gulati. I'm from India, the world's largest democracy. Now, I look forward to engaging in a constructive conversation with you. I was a bit confused whether I should be a part of this debate or not, but seeing the active energy over here, I'm all super energetic to engage in a constructive conversation with you. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Divyanka Singh, and I'm from India. And I'm very much excited to go with the debate because it's my first debate ever. And let's see what happens. I'm so much excited to do. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Devita Verma, and I'm also from India. And like all my fellow debaters, I'm also very excited for this, and I'm looking forward to having a very successful debate session. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm honored to be here, and I am from India. I have attended several MUNs, and I recently stumbled upon this, so I think it can be a great session. And good luck to all.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Simran Devani, and I'm honored to be here today. I'm from India, and I'm really excited to. I'm here, and I'm really excited to discuss on the important topic, Israel and Palestine conflict. All the best, everyone.
Hi everyone, my name is Bashir. I'm from Somalia and I'm so excited to be part of this debate and can't wait to win.
Good evening, all. I'm Toshan, hailing from Nellore, Andhra Pradesh, which is in India. So I am usually interested in English, reading books, playing guitar, and badminton. That's all.
Good evening, Chair and Sir. My name is Huraya Amber. I'm also from India and a former delegate of the Chair. I'm really looking forward to have a good debate. Thank you.
Hello, Chair. Good evening, fellow delegates. My name is Joseph Rashini. I am from Lebanon, and I am looking forward to this debate, hoping to have a nice and friendly debate and exactly to understand the other side as well as having them to understand our side. And I'm looking forward to the debate. Thank you.
Afternoon, Chair and honorable delegates. My name is Yamin Mustafa Samad. I'm from South Africa, And yeah, I'm interested in geopolitics and meeting new people. And yeah, thank you.
Yes, Chair. Yeah. So, hi everyone, my name is Shrutika and I'm from India, Tamil Nadu. And this is the previous MUN was my fourth MUN, and this is my first time with IMUN trying as a viewer of the debate. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. All right. With that stated, let us get straight to the point. So now we are proceeding with the first part of Team A and Team B, the opening statements. The first speaker will come from Team A, Israel. You may now begin your opening speech.
Good
You
evening,
may
ladies and gentlemen. Today, I, Simran Devani, stand before you to represent the state of Israel, a nation whose existence is rooted in a rich history. Since its establishment in 1948, Israel has provided a homeland for Jewish people who for centuries faced discrimination and displacement. The creation of Israel was not only a humanitarian necessity, but also a fulfillment of Jewish people's historical connection to this land. For centuries, despite persecution and exile, Jewish communities have maintained a profound bond with this land and dreams for return. Understanding Israel's historical importance helps us grasp the deep rooted significance of its existence and a hope to represent for its establishment of peace.
If wars can be started by lies, they can be stopped by truth. Good evening, Honorable Chairman, esteemed moderator, respected opponents, and my dear audience. I'm Divyankar Singh and joined this debate to put up my stance on paths to peace and justice in Israel Palestine. I stand before you supporting Israel, a nation whose rights to exist and defend itself remains foundations to any viable solution. Supporting Israel is about recognizing the importance of a source foundation for peace and justice. We aim to illuminate that Israel's stability is not just beneficial to only Israelis, but also Palestinians coexisting with security and dignity.
Warm salutations, everyone. I, Devita Verma, building on my fellow teammates' statements, will further state that Israel's commitment to peace is underscored by its ongoing security challenges. Israel is constantly facing threats with many terror organizations like Houthis, Hezbollah, and particularly Hamas, whose goal is the destruction of Israel. Though Israel has to face many challenges, but is still motivated to go further and enhance the lives of its citizens. Groups like Hamas have a long history of targeting civilians through violent means, and not only Israeli citizens, but they also exploit the Palestinians' ones. These acts of violence not only harms Israeli civilians, but also makes it difficult for Israel to trust Palestinian leadership. Israel champions of peace and stability, but we are yet to see a reasonable response from the other side. But we still have our hopes high up.
Today, we have assembled here recognizing that while our perspectives as individuals may differ, we have shared purpose as people. Today, at this place, we have all come together realizing that we could only solve our biggest problems together. And a pressing issue which has impacted millions of lives needs to be dealt with utmost solidarity and an uncompromising approach. Honorable judges, fellow counterparts, the situation in West Asia today may indeed not be commending, but after the blasphemous attacks of 7th of October, an escalation seemed inevitable. The return of hostages adhering to the 1979 Convention on Hostages is a pre-entry. Several countries in the region are governed by illegitimate and non-recognized actors whose actions, driven by self-serving interests, are hampering the very development of the entire populace. While diplomacy is an imperative, effective negotiations can only take place between two civilian elected leaderships. And it is only when such developments take place can we anticipate peace and stability in the region.
Thank you. I'm Marcel Soren from the delegation of Israel. Taking every point into account, that delegation of Israel stated so far, certainly peace can exist, but peace cannot long last with potential threats. Hamas is clearly one such threat since its foundation in 1987. This growing threat can be seen today by launching missiles. Hamas clearly implies that they are ready for the war. Following that, when IDF responds, the response is being taken as a genocide. War of arms becomes a war of sympathy. Hypocrisy has no limits, and Palestine has no defense, yet Hamas put them at risk again and again. No wonder why Hamas makes Palestinians their human shields. Countries around the world complain that their governments do not take an initiative to tackle enemies.
Okay, thank
potential
you.
dangers.
Thank you. Team A. Thank you, Team A. All right. Thank you, Team A. Now for Team B, Palestine, your opening statements. You may begin to the first
Chair, am I
speaker.
audible? Sorry, am I audible, Chair?
Yes.
Okay, I will
You may
start.
begin when ready.
The Holy Land of the Middle East consists of countries such as Lebanon, Western Jordan, Southwestern Syria, and Israel, a region that has become so beloved by the world and has been the birthplace of the world's most renowned religions. Whether you're Christian, Muslim, or even Jewish, this region of holiness is irresistibly charming due to its distinctive history. You may be thinking, wait, didn't you miss a country? Where's Palestine? What about Palestine? Well, Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, and distinguished folks, the state of Palestine has been in ruins ever since the 7th of October of 2023. A land of such holiness, prestige, history, and most importantly, diversity, has been completely obliterated due to the Israeli aggression on our beloved Palestine. Why, you may ask? It's because of Israel and the overwhelming majority of the Western world's self-proclaimed fight on terrorism. The state of Israel first led us to believe that they were going after Hamas after they had attacked many Israeli towns and military bases, which led to Israel's deadliest attack in the nation's history. However, little did we know that this attack has been built up for decades due to Israeli aggression on the state of Palestine that would not only have forced the establishment of Hamas in 1987, after Israel had failed to invade us back in 1973. Likewise, for our biggest ally of the Republic of Lebanon, as Hezbollah was formed in 1982 due to another failed Israeli invasion on Lebanon back in 1978. May it be clear, such resistance groups were formed in order to prevent Israeli invasions and further Israeli aggression. A fight against terrorism has claimed the lives of approximately 42,924 Palestinians. Israel claimed to have killed around 8,000 members of Hamas. Congratulations, State of Israel, on such an accomplishment. May it be known that Israel has killed over 34 to potentially 40,000 innocent lives since October 7. May it be known that Israel had approximately killed 140 journalists since October 7. May it be known that Israel bombed hospitals, churches, mosques, synagogues, and many historical religious sites since October 7. May it be known that Israel's aggression went so far that they even took the initiative of bombing members of Hamas in other countries such as Iran, Syria, and our dear beloved ally of Lebanon since October 7. May it be known that Israel had purposely targeted and killed 27 UN peacekeeper troops in Lebanon since October 7. May it be known that Israel had bombed Yemen, Iraq, and Syria, and the world still dares to bat an eye since the 7th of October of 2023. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, may it be known that while Israel was demolishing Palestine and the people of the state of Palestine, it managed to take the lives of 870 Israeli citizens in the state of Palestine since the 7th of October of 2023. Instead of asking why did this war start, conversely, we should ask, where will this war end? As we hold this debate at this very moment, loved ones are still looking for each other under the debris of infrastructure of Palestine, even in Lebanon due to Israeli aggression. The majority of the Holy Land has lost its prestige. A land open to all cultures, religions, and ethnic backgrounds has now been known as a place to avoid traveling to. Go ahead, Google if it's safe to travel to Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, or even Israel. You will be warned that you should avoid traveling. Once again, all because of Israeli aggression and the threat of its escalation of a regional war due to its self-proclaimed fight against terrorism. The state of Israel may have the right to say it is attacking Iranian proxies and bombarding other countries to dismantle them. However, what gives them the right to attack other countries and to attempt to invade our beloved Palestine and our dear ally of Lebanon? As the delegate of Palestine, we believe in peace. We want to live in peace and harmony, have our own cultures, open borders, and most importantly, the recognition of each other as two separate states. We believe it is in our best interest to initiate a two-state solution to end this conflict. Unlike us, the state of Israel has been the ones rejecting the peace and ceasefire negotiations on multiple occasions ever since it started its regional massacre on the 7th of October of 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, may it be marked that although the stereotype of one's origin of a Middle Eastern background has been depicted as a terrorist worldwide, it is the stereotypical reality that Israel is not known to be a terrorist organization, but however are revealing themselves to the world as a state of terrorism due to its aggression and escalation of the conflict that it brings amongst the region. Thank you.
Okay, so we're under this. Thank you for Team B for your opening statements. Now with that, we are going with our first round of arguments, which is 10 minutes per team. Okay. With that stated, for the first round of arguments, Team A, Israel, you may begin.
It was
Team A, you may have your first speaker when ready.
Yes, sir. I hope I'm visible and audible. Okay. Now, it was Anthony J. D'Angelo, the American author, who quoted that while solving problems, it is important. Pardon? I hope it is now. I'm visible and audible as well.
Yes, but I believe that because you're using your mobile phone, it cannot support both your audio and your camera. Did you switch devices?
I hope I'm audible.
You're audible, but you're frozen.
Okay, now?
Yeah, okay, yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. It was Anthony J. D'Angelo, the American author, who quoted that while solving problems, it is important to dig at the roots and not just shackle at the leaves. While the world, henceforth, it stands essential to evaluate where the genesis of the menace lies. While the world agreed to the recognition of a sovereign Jewish state, certain states posed a disagreement to the UN Resolution 181, which was the ultimate cause of the war in 1948. In the 1956 Suez Crisis, the problems emerged due to the Egyptian blockade of the Straits of Tiran and the Gulf of Aqaba for Israeli passage, which was also the cause of the 1967 Six-Day War. The denial to navigational rights were very much in contradiction to the 1958 Geneva Convention. In fact, the US president put it very appropriately, and I quote, if a single act of folly was more responsible for this explosion than any other, it was the arbitrary and the dangerous announced decision that the Straits of Tiran would be closed. The right of innocent maritime passage must be preserved for all nations. End quote. There exist countless instances like these where international conventions and mutual agreements have often been disregarded. While the 1992 Oslo Accords did give some hope, they were outrightly shattered when the Hamas assumed power. It surely rejected to adhere to any of the previous agreements, including the Rafah Agreement in 2005 and ceasefire agreement in 2018, thus derailing any process made pertaining to the peace process. Such incidents unfold when citizens are not given adequate choices and opportunities to elect their leaders, reflecting the fact that the elections in Gaza did not take place since the past 2 decades. On the contrary, Palestinians in Israel, who are mainly Arab citizens, does not only have right to vote, but they also have representation in the Israeli parliament. It is evidential that unless needful rights are given to its own citizens, Hamas cannot surely pretend to pose an advocate for human rights in Israel.
Now I take the floor on behalf of the delegation of Israel. I address the words from the Palestinian representative, which claims that Israel has attacked Palestine, Iran, Lebanon, Yemen, and other Arab countries. And that's what the world calls terrorism. And I would say that it is totally untrue because Israel has a functioning body acting as a government to run the state of Israel that primarily focuses on keeping its citizens safe, creating a space for other Jewish people, taking initiatives to tackle any other threats and terrorism, and Israel commits to do it by all means, while Palestine has no proper functioning body that can act as a government, yet they have self-proclaimed militant group to fight for Palestinian people called Hamas, whose primary goal is the destruction of Israel. I asked this to the Palestinian representative, what is the purpose of Hamas and its allies attacking Israeli civilians with hundreds of missiles while having zero defense to protect the people they represent and hide behind? Do you want peace or war? Hamas and its allies are not only a threat to Israeli civilians, but also a threat to Palestinians and the future of Palestine.
My dear fellow audience, if we go a few years back in the history, we can easily know that the land of Israel has suffered numerous wars, such as the Israel-Arab War, the Lebanon War, the Six-Day War, and even the Yom Kippur War, which was actually Syria and Egypt planned an invasion of Israel on Yom Kippur, the holiest Jews' holiday. Is an injustice. And even if we way back the Hitler era, we can see that during that time, the Jews suffered atrocities in the hands of Adolf Hitler. And yet again, Hamas is doing the exact same. But if we go through back the history in 1979, we can know that Mujama al-Islam was recognized by Israel as a charity, allowing the organization to set up the Islamic University in Gaza and build mosques, clubs, schools, and a library in Gaza beside other social services. But in 1987, during the first Intifada, it evolved into a terror organization now we call Hamas. Isn't it biting the hands that fed you? Aren't they going against what Israel has done for them? And even if we see other things that Israel has even made some peace words like Oslo Accords, that Camp David Accords. But yet again, we have no solution for all this. And again, the people Palestinians may believe that Palestine is supporting them. But if we see deep down, under the disguise of Hamas, they're actually also exploiting the Palestinians. While Israel can see through this disguise and therefore warns out Hamas, which terrorizes its land and also other citizens. The Gaza has been a very tension issue nowadays, and seen very wars and conflict regions. And now I would like to give my stage to my further teammates.
On October 7, 2023, Israel experienced a devastating assault launched by Hamas, who breached Israel's borders targeting civilians, subjected to shootings, killings, kidnappings, and violent encounters, resulting in tragic deaths of at least 1,400 Israeli civilians, with 100 others injured. Rockets were also launched by Gaza, further terrorized Israel's cities. Families and communities were torn apart, leading to atmosphere of mourning and mixed with anger. Many Israelis viewed the attack as indicative of a border existential threat, highlighting the fears of continued violence and instability. The assault marked one of the deadliest days in Israel's history, with widespread casualties across southern Israel. The nation argues that these attacks highlight the extreme risk posed by Hamas, which routinely uses violence as a political tool. It also highlights Shani Locke, a 22-year-old civilian attending a music festival in southern Israel, was one of the victims of this brutal violence when Hamas militants attacked the festival. This incident evoked widespread condemnation internationally. Also, the abduction of hostages, including children, women, and elderly, also underscores the brutality of Hamas's tactics, further intensifying the crisis and sparkling a strong military response from Israel. These actions are disregarded for human life and international norms, which Israel condemns unequivocally. Israel's effort to secure the return of hostages highlights its commitment to humanitarian principles.
Well, I would like to begin with historical ties to land which takes back into the history. And it states how Israel is historically connected to Jewish people. And it mentions there are so many ancient texts which mentions that Jerusalem is a very important place for the Jewish people. Even in 1947, as said by my teammate, that UN proposed the partition which led to the creation of Israel. So, if we see that Israel is a proper state, full-fledged state, how can we deny that it doesn't have the right to defend itself? Israel also asserts its right to defend as a fundamental principle of national sovereignty and security. And these are there are various reasons for that. Israel is always accommodated with its neighbors who are its enemies, be it its neighbors, be it the non-state organizations like Hamas, Hezbollah, etc. So every country has the right to protect its people, to protect its boundaries, and that's what Israel does. And I don't think so. It is wrong at any of the place. This is what we see with other countries as well, and we say that Israel should not do this. Israel should remain quiet. Is this fair and justice at any of the cost? I don't think so personally. This is what I believe, that any country, be it any country, they have the right to protect itself.
All right. Thank you, Team Israel, for your opening set of arguments. Now, Team Palestine, you have 10 minutes. You may begin through your first speaker.
Yes, sir. Chair, we can start.
No, you start
Honorable
when you
Chair,
first speak.
Honorable Chair, the future of every nation lies within its hand of its own youth. However, in Palestine, the harsh reality is that this generation's future is being stolen piece by piece, dream by dream. Palestinian children and youth adults grow up amongst the constant violent instability and a dire lack of opportunity, facing daily challenges that no child should ever experience. They are not only innocent bystanders but are the victims in this conflict. As the international community, we must protect them, and for each lost Palestinian child is a loss to humanity as a whole. The blockade in Gaza, imposed since 2007, has isolated nearly 2 million people from the world, cutting off access to essential resources and creating an economic stranglehold on this youth population. According to the United Nations, over 4 lakh Palestinian children in Gaza suffer from trauma due to exposure to violence and lack of insecurity. The region has one of the highest of child psychological disorders. This deprivation of mental and physical well-being for Palestinian youth represents a critical loss of potential and a loss that no amount of future aid can fully restore. In addition to emotional and physical toll, the economic perspectives for Palestinian youth are bleak. The blockade on Gaza and restrictive measures in the West Bank have shattered the Palestinian economy. Gaza's youth face an unemployment rate exceeding 60%, and only a fraction of youth have access to meaningful education or job opportunities. Restricted access to resources, limited movement, and the destruction of infrastructure have prevented Palestinians from developing a thriving economy. The impact of these conditions cannot be understated. By limiting educational and economic development, generations of Palestinians are deprived of self-sufficiency and hope of contributing to the global economy. In an estimation, nearly 16,765 children have been killed till date. These actions reflect the violation of international law and insecurity of country's future. Each life loss is not just a statistic, it is a tragedy that reinforces that urgent need for accountability and change. So, we should voice out Israel's crimes, which economically restrict the youth's access to education and employment. The brutal reality faced by Palestinians in the West Bank reveals a continuous and systematic denial of their fundamental rights. These settlements have punished Palestinians' families to fringe, stripping them from the basic needs to freedom of movement, access to land, and livelihood. For Palestinian mothers in the overcrowded camps, this reality means watching their children struggle with malnutrition, watching their children struggle with starvation, with no means to improve their circumstances. Imagine the face of a young child whose life has been marked by conflict and displacement. The barriers to obtaining building permits in the West Bank are reducing, which nearly impossible which is nearly impossible standards deliberating imposing to force Palestinians of their own ancestral land. In 2020 alone, Israel authorities demolished over 800 Palestinian homes, displacing nearly 1,000 people. These numbers are not only lives torn apart, they refer to the families which are homeless now and the children robbed of a safe environment. Each statistic represents a story of violence, loss, and fear. Over to Yamin.
Okay, thank you, Chair and honorable delegates. So I have some things I would like to address on the Israeli side on their claims. So if Israel claims to be a democracy for all citizens, how does it justify over 60 discriminatory laws against Palestinian citizens of Israel? Adala, the Legal Center for Arab Minority Rights, reports that dozens of Israeli laws explicitly disadvantage Palestinian citizens, limiting their political representation, land ownership, and access to resources. How does Israel reconcile these laws with the principles of equality and democracy? By focusing on discriminatory laws, you highlight internal inequalities within Israel's own legal system, forcing the opposing team to confront difficult questions about democratic integrity and human rights. Now, my second thing I would like to address is the apartheid. How does Israel respond to accusations that it's a system of apartheid? Given this systematic segregation and control over Palestinian movement, land, and resources. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, have used the term apartheid to describe Israel's policies in the occupied territory due to systematic segregation and discriminatory practices. How does Israel refute these findings? And what concrete measures does it take to ensure equal rights for Palestinians under its control? This question brings light to a significant and growing criticism from international community, putting the opposing team, putting Israel's policies into question. And then lastly, I'd like to address the comment about human shields. If the fourth Geneva Convention emphasizes that even in cases where combatants are mixed among civilians, the occupying power must still ensure the protection of civilian populations. Targeting densely populated areas can violate international law, regardless of where militants are positioned, because the principle of proportionality requires forces to avoid or minimize civilian harm. In the Gaza Strip, movement is highly restricted by ongoing blockade, leaving citizens with few options to relocate to safer areas. When discussing densely populated urban warfare, it's crucial to recognize that many civilians cannot freely move due to these constraints. And it becomes the responsibility of the militarily stronger party to minimize harm to the civilian lives. Multiple human rights organizations, again, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, emphasize that accusing Israel of these violations is mandatory. Thank you. I pass it over to Bashir.
Thank you, Emin. Many Palestinians have to leave their house a long time ago in 1948 and 1967 because of the wars. Since then, they have been wanting to go back. This has really important to them. They feel it's a big part of who they are and their dream of having their own country. Today, Palestinians live in areas called the West Bank and Gaza. These areas are controlled by Israel, making it hard for Palestinians to run their own communities and have to get basic needs. Israeli people are also building towns called settlements in parts of the land Palestinians want to their own country. Living in these areas is hard for Palestinians. They have many rules about where they can go and when, making life challenging. Sometimes they also face force from Israeli soldiers, which creates a lot of fear and sentence. In Gaza, there is extra problem. There is a block that stops supplies from getting in easy, which means people don't have jobs, food, clean water, or even electricity. This has created a lot of suffering. Another issue is that Palestinians, even kids, can be arrested without a trial. Many people feel this is unfair and it makes things even more difficult, especially for families who feel they don't have any rights. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your first round of arguments, Team Palestine. With that stated, we are now going for the rebuttals. Each team has each team has 5 minutes of rebuttals. So with that, Team A, Israel, you may begin your first round of rebuttals. So you may begin.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, one of the opponent has said about the blockade at the Gaza. So like to tell him that blockade only prevents Hamas from smuggling weapons and materials that are used for terrorism, what it actually is doing. And Israel has the right to protect its citizens from Hamas. That is not a doubt. The second thing that I want to mention in that Hamas ties to Iran and Hezbollah, they are justified. The reasons are justified to Israel's caution. And blockade only prevents financial terrorism. And whatever is happening in the Gaza's governance, it is actually Hamas' responsibility, not of Israel's. So I don't think so. We should say that Israel is not supporting or it has stopped anything. It is totally a Hamas responsibility. The Gaza's economic struggles that what it is facing today are due to Hamas mismanagement, not of Israel. And even if I link it to the other other countries too as well. So even US and European Union, they also support or state that yes, Israel has the right to self-defense. And even international communities, they condemn Hamas terrorism. Blockade is lawful. I think it's under international law also, it's completely lawful. If I would say one law, so there is one law, San Remo Manual in Article 102. It has been mentioned that blockade is completely lawful. And Israel's naval blockade is recognized by the UN only. So I don't think so that we should argue in this that Israel has did a blockade and it's not supporting. This is not a correct statement that one is providing. Rest, I would like to handle the mic to my next teammate to explain more on this.
One of the opponent also stated on Israel's killings and the destruction that was not killings and destruction, and on the psychology, one of the opponents spoke like this is hampering the youths, Palestine's youths. But I would like to state that Israel has an inherent right to defend itself against aggression posed by Hamas. It was an evening. Israel was celebrating a music festival, and on the morning of 4 a.m. to 5 a.m., the militants came and started attacking the civilians. It began from the part of Palestine. Also, Israel's retaliation was aimed at dismantling Hamas's military capabilities, which pose a direct threat to civilians, and also the displacement caused. On the day of October 7 and October 8, there was two-way attack from Hamas and Hezbollah from south and north side respectively, which displaced civilians from south and north, creating a huge ruckus in the Israel's territory. Now I would like to pass on the stage to my teammate.
Thank you.
While the
you may continue.
While the delegate called for a two-state solution, just a gentle reminder, it was Hamas who, posing an opposition to the peace process, launched numerous attacks against Israel. The group carried out suicide bombings, shootings, and other forms of violence aiming to undermine the peace process in 1992 Oslo Accords and assert its opposition to the agreement, including the 1994 bus bombing in Afula and 1995 Tel Aviv attacks, killing dozens. Those actions did not just demonstrate resistance to Israel or PLO, but also to the ambitions of the innocent Palestinians to live in peace. It was shocking to hear the delegate calling upon unemployment and education in Gaza. Some specific colleges in Gaza have faced criticism for practicing restriction on female student participation in certain programs. On the point of education, for employment, as of recent years, Israel has issued tens of thousands of work permits to the Palestinians from West Bank. Example, in 2023, there were 1 lakh work permits for the Palestinians in Israel itself. And so I would urge the delegates to take the responsibility and concern themselves with their responsibility instead of just assigning blames upon others.
Okay, now I would like to further add that it is true that Israel has the right to defend, but if we see on the other side, Gaza has been suffering due to Hamas and also due to Palestinians' atrocities which has caused on Israel. For example, the suicide bombings caused by Hamas has killed thousands of Israeli citizens likewise.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. Reminder for all the participants, the debaters, please be coordinate to know who exactly speaks right after so you can maximize your time so you will not accidentally cut yourself off. With that stated, Team Palestine, you may begin from starting from your first speaker. Your time begins when whoever starts.
Yes, Chair, I'm ready to start. Okay. Okay, Honorable Chair, fellow delegates. So I would like to address the self-defense justification. So while self-defense is a valid concern, the scale and impact of Israel's military response on civilians raise questions about proportionality, emphasize the need for measures that protect non-combatants and minimize civilian casualties, citing international humanitarian law. Now, another I would like to address is targeting terrorism. The international law requires distinguishing between combatants and non-combatants, indicating the significant numbers of casualties are civilians, stressing the need for accountability and more precise military strategies to avoid harm to innocent civilians. And I would also like to say is that the peace efforts the importance is dialogue, and we'd like to consider both sides. And also for security concerns, while security concerns are legitimate, actions that lead to widespread suffering and instability can create more enemies and perpetuate cycles of violence. A security framework is important, and protection for human rights for all regions is mandatory. Okay, I'd like to pass on to the next speaker. Thank you. Chair, since one of my the fellow delegates are still preparing, I'll continue a bit further, if that's fine with you. Okay, so I'd also like to mention, and I hope I'm not sounding too much like a parrot, but the violation of Article 53 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which prohibits the destruction of property and infrastructure belonging to civilians unless necessary for military operations. The deliberate bombing of hospitals, schools, and places of worship demonstrates a systematic disregard for international humanitarian law. Since the onset of the conflict, as my colleague mentioned, 140 journalists have lost their lives, highlighting the severe restriction on freedom of press and the protection of civilians in the conflict zone. Furthermore, collective punishment continues to exacerbate the humanitarian crisis. According to the United Nations for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, over 2 million people in Gaza lack access to basic necessities, including food, water, medical supplies, to ongoing blockades. The blockade violates the principle in international humanitarian law, with mandates that occupying powers must ensure welfare of the civilian population. It's essential to recognize that the emergence of the groups like Hamas and Hezbollah is rooted in a historical context of oppression and resistance against occupation. The Rome Statute of International Criminal Court defines apartheid as a crime against humanity, reflecting the systematic oppression faced by Palestinians. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have both uncategorized Israel's action as constituting apartheid, emphasizing the situation is not merely a conflict, but struggle against systematic discrimination. In conclusion, as we debate, the future of this region must advocate for a resolution that upholds international law and prioritizes the right and dignity of Palestinian people. It is crucial that support a two-state solution that respects the sovereignty of both peoples and that works towards justice and reconciliation rather than continued violence and oppression. Thank you.
Okay, seeing as there's no other speaker, we will move on to save time to the next round of arguments.
Thank you, Chair.
No, another point I want to make for the participants is that you have to be careful about your team synergy. You need to know who designates what, so you will not waste time and will not avoid some awkward silence amongst your team. You're also being assessed on your team cohesion, so be very careful on that aspect.
Apologies, Chair.
All right. Now let us go to the second round of arguments, which is 10 minutes again.
Yes.
With
Chair,
that
am I audible?
stated, team, yes, thank you for asking the moderators. So with that stated, Team Israel, you may begin your second round of main arguments. You can begin. Just speak.
Chair, may I?
Yes, I've already stated you can start.
I'm sorry. 5.9 million refugees, 56% of its population under poverty, and their vital drugs at zero stocks. Babies under rubbles, babies without heads under rubbles, severe PTSD among those that are left breathing. Use of prohibited weapons and bombing of medical centers and targeting of journalists. Targeting of journalists that only want to bring out truth. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable chair and esteemed delegates, good evening. As I stand before you today, I am not just standing here as a representative of Palestine, but I'm voicing the cries of those that do not have voices and the countless souls that have been lost. Let us confront the painful truth about Israel's ongoing occupation of Palestinian territories illegally. For 56 years, our people have endured a relentless grip of control. They have been stripped out of their rights, and there has been a ravaging increase in crime against them in the name of war. People wake up every day knowing that their land is occupied by someone, some tyrant. According to the statistics, 2,000 people have been killed since the start of the war this month alone, and over 600,000 Israeli settlers now occupy the West Bank, where homes are being destroyed and families are forcibly uprooted. Let us talk about the violence that rips apart through the hearts of the Palestinians. In the recent conflict, over 2,000, not only were they lost, many of them were children. Talk about targeting civilians. And imagine waking up in a land, in your own land, and being called terrorists just because you want your homeland back. And about Hamas and Hezbollah, they were created in retaliation to the Israeli military forces. Just because the group is not backed up by the state's government itself does not make them terrorists. Terrorists means unlawful activity and crime against civilians. More or less, that definition fits the Israeli military than the people of Palestinians. I agree, Hamas is a very brutal group, but that does not mean you call the people of Gaza and Palestine as terrorists. We must confront there has been systemic discrimination that pervades daily life for Palestinians. Reports from
Team B, I'm sorry, but I started the main arguments of Team A.
Chair, that's why I was silent. I was not speaking. Okay, sir.
Pardon, Chair, if I interrupt.
Yes.
Actually, Team B was scheduled for now. Okay.
No, Team A.
It was Team B. Yeah. As per the rules that were sent to us, Team B was supposed to.
Okay. Let's just. Okay, not an issue. Let's just go with Team B. Let's continue with Team B.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
May I continue, Chair? Okay. Yes, thank you. The continued oppression of our people does not just harm these within the borders, but also creates a rising number of refugees. As we already know, over 5.9 million refugees. The people of Palestine have not only lost their dreams and futures, but they've also lost children that could have been the better and the brighter torchbearers of the future. We imagine as children, we wake up, we imagine of luxury, we imagine extravagance. But these people have to wake up. Children there have to wake up and dream only of a sky that flies kites instead of missiles, and a sky that gives them freedom and not the bombings. I urge each of you to reflect deeply on our shared humanity. Will we allow ourselves to complicit in the suffering of millions, or will we rise to champion justice? Let us remember that this is not a fight between Israel and Palestine, but this, our ultimate goal, must not be occupation or political power. It must rather be peace and justice, where the path is ultimately towards peace. I ask you now, where will we stand in solidarity with the will we stand in solidarity with the oppressed, when will we ensure that every child, regardless of where he's born, has the right to live in peace and security? Can we in any good conscience choose anything but justice for Palestine? Thank you. I move on to the next speaker.
Yes, okay. A delegate of Israel mentioned the notion about Hamas and how they killed a 20-year-old at a concert. Touche. What about the attacks that have been made against Palestine ever since the incident? If one man is murdered, shouldn't only one man be murdered or jailed? The murdering and imprisonment of a whole nation is unacceptable to bombard the state of Palestine and be trigger-happy powerhouse of the Middle East. What about all the minors, the women, the reporters, journalists, and most importantly, those of your own people who have been martyred due to their own country's aggression against our state and our land? Do you think this is just? Is this the revenge you take? Is this truly the state of Israel that represents the Holy Land of many prophets? Where is the humanity in this massacre? What is equal or rational to you? Once again, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, even if another 40-something thousand Palestinian lives are claimed due to Israeli aggression, the world and its media only dares to publicly notice the death of the Western world's golden boys martyrs. Thank you, and I'd like to yield the rest of my time.
Yes, Chair, am I audible? Okay, let me just continue. Okay, Honorable Chair, as I've said before, the United Nations has passed several resolutions calling for an end to Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory, of occupation of Palestinian territories and the dismantling of settlements. Notably, the UN Security Council Resolution 242 emphasizes the need for Israel to withdraw from territories occupied during the 1967 war. Israel's non-compliance with the resolution has drawn criticism from the international community. I would also like to indicate further that the International Convent on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, reports that indicate that Israel practices may violate its obligations under the ICCPR, particularly concerning arbitrary detention, torture of detainees, and restriction on freedom of expression. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, have documented these violations in their reports. Okay, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC, the treatment of Palestinian children, particularly in military detention, raises concerns regarding Israel's compliance with the CRC. Reports have various human rights organizations highlight the detention of minors and the conditions they face in Israeli military courts, which conflicts with the CRC's mandates for the protection of children's rights, defense for Children International Palestine.
The International Criminal Court, ICC, recognized its jurisdiction over serious crimes in the occupied territories and opened an investigation in 2021. This action represents a crucial step towards accountability and affirms the global community's acknowledgement of these crimes. Justice is essential, but it cannot erase the suffering endured by Palestinians. We are at a crossroad. Silence in this face of such is injustice. Justice justice, and its complicity. We cannot ignore the systematic discrimination and policies against Palestinians or the denial of basic human rights, freedom, security, and dignity. Palestinians and have endured decades of oppression, losing loved ones, homes, and lands. Their struggle goes beyond land. It is a fight for humanity and peace. Over to Bashir.
Yeah, Israelis have killed many kids and many people in Palestine. There is no human rights and to us and arrest people. So that's all.
Okay, Honorable Chair, for the last minute, I'll speak. So I'd like to mention that holding Israel accountable involves several parties to be involved, especially legal action pursuing cases in international courts, such as International Criminal Court (ICC) for potential war crimes, crimes against humanity, can hold individuals accountable, especially the ones high in leadership in Israel. But let me also mention that the exact number of Palestinians that have lost their lives in this till October, from October the 7th to this year, October, 42,924 Palestinians have been killed, with a substantial number being innocent civilians, including children and elderly people. Starkly contrast with Israel's claims of targeting Hamas, raising critical questions about the legitimacy, morality of their actions under international law. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, speakers. With that stated, we are now going for the next round of arguments this time. And as scheduled, it will be coming from Team A. So with that stated, I want to first ask Team A, are you ready?
Yes, Chair.
All right. That is good. You may now start your second round of arguments, starting with the first one who speaks.
I would now like to talk on the allies of Palestine. Some Palestinians allies such as Hezbollah or Iran actively support and fund terrorism. This facilitates violence against Israeli civilians and undermines any prospects for peace. The Israeli perspective frames that these allies as conflict in the perpetuation of conflict rather than advocation of Palestinian rights. These actions often determine peace negotiations. For instance, certain allies may also promote a hardline stance that refuses to recognize Israel's right to exist, making it difficult to achieve a lasting two-state solution. Also, some Palestinian allies have an agenda that do not align with the true peace and stability in the region. This includes historical animosity towards Israel that motivates these alliances, which may prioritize ideology over genuine progress towards a resolution. Some allies also exploit humanitarian concerns to delegitimize Israel. I would rather state now that these allies do actually have some motive towards the two-state solution or a peaceful negotiation with Israel or some other. As concluded, as I would like to conclude with the Hamas and the Hezbollah and its ally Hezbollah, these peace negotiations can't happen until and unless they solve.
So now I would like to take a step further and further add that if we see in the Gaza Strip, there have been atrocity caused by Hamas. For example, people of Palestine are suffering due to Hamas reign. And if we see that just a few days ago, Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar was killed, but when his wife was escaping, she was caught with a $32,000 worth Hermes bag, while the Palestinian people were suffering there. And now the other side is saying that Israel is against it. But Israel often provides medical care for Palestinians, including those from Gaza and the West Bank. Many Palestinians receive advanced medical treatments in Israeli hospitals, including life-saving procedures, and specialized care unavailable in those Palestinian territories which are occupied by Gaza, which are occupied by Hamas and are under the Gaza Empire. But if you also see that Gaza and Hamas side is not actually retaliating as it should. For example, Gaza has been used as a base for launching thousands of rockets into Israel. Such actions undermine argument that the conflict is solely about land occupation and instead suggest that militant groups are unwilling to coexist peacefully with Israel. For instance, both Palestinian Authority in West Bank and Hamas in Gaza have accused of human rights abuses. Isn't it a humanitarian crisis? So Israel has a right to defend itself. So we can say that measures such as blockades, checkpoints, the Iron Dome are very well sent. And furthermore, what about women empowerment? If we see that Israel supports women empowerment, it's their law. Well, we can't say anything true about Hamas, but we don't need another Afghanistan under the Taliban rule. We need a free power state, and which Israel promises. Now, I would like to give to the next speaker.
Thank you so much. I'd like to extend this to a more different point. Well, regarding the efforts, Israel has made several significant efforts for peace with Palestinians over the years. We have seen that. And we have the written text as well. We have the proofs as well, which it is reflecting its complex history and the ongoing conflict. There are so many notable attempts. Like I'd like to mention a few of them. For example, Oslo Accords, which was in between 1993 to 1995. It was a landmark series of agreements that was aimed at establishing a framework, actually, for the peace and you could say mutual recognition between the Israel and there is an organization, Palestine Liberation Organization, for that, leading to the creation of Palestinian Authority only. There was another accord, or you can say another attempt, Annapolis Conference 2007. Gatherings basically aim to revitalize peace talks, focusing on the two-state solution and engaging international support as well. Despite some progress, it did not lead to a conclusive deal. Then again, we saw 2014 Kerry initiative. US Secretary of State John Kerry at that time led efforts to negotiate a framework for peace. But again, due to ongoing violence and political tensions, it did faltered actually. And there are so many normalization agreements as well through the Abraham Accords. Israel normalized relations with several Arab nations, UAE, Bahrain, etc. And these agreements shifted the regional landscape. They raised questions about the future of Israeli and Palestinian peace and talks. And still now, it's not about we are not doing the same. It's still happening the same, that there are a lot of dialogues or negotiations, there are informal negotiations, ceasefire agreements, and a lot of mediators are doing that. There are international mediators also, they are doing the same for the improving conditions for Palestinians and to aiming to reduce the violence. So I don't think so that Israel is not doing anything. There are efforts that demonstrate basically the ongoing commitment of Israel for finding a peace resolution through persistent challenges. there are so many challenges which Israel is also facing, like territorial disputes, security concerns, and political divisions, which also complicate the process. They also complicate the situations. But still, Israel is on its stake. It is trying its best to end this war, to end this conflict, and to get a good and bright nation.
While while the world still stands still by the horrors of the 7th of October, but unfortunately, what we saw today is an outright justification of what cannot be called nothing less than a catastrophic act of terrorism. To the point of the people of Palestine, we believe that the innocent people of Palestine are being the utmost victim of the self-serving motives of Hamas and its proxies. The delegate kept a point upon the people of Palestine. Now, just a gentle reminder, none of the delegates from my side called the people of Palestine a terrorist. In fact, the delegate said that Hamas is not a terrorist organization, and a terrorist organization is one that attacks innocent civilians. So, just a gentle reminder, the catastrophic attacks of the 7th of October were not launched on one of the Nazi soldiers, but they were on the innocent civilians from over 20 countries on the holy day of Shemini Atzeret. To the people of Gaza, this conflict can end tomorrow, only if Hamas releases the remaining hostages and lays down its arms. There are around 101 hostages from over 23 countries, and Israel is dedicated and committed to bring all of them back home. And Israel would guarantee the safety of all those who return our hostages. However, Israel also guarantees one thing: if any harm is done to our hostages, we will we will not let it go with impunity. To those who harm our hostages, Israel will bring to the justice. To the people in the region, today there's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to bring and ensure peace and stability in the entire region. Seeing past hatred is hard, building trust is hard, compromise is hard, making peace is hard, but the future otherwise is not worthy of our children, and the present not worthy of ourselves. So let's make a decision to together create a region which is stable and peaceful for all of us. Thank you.
All right. Any more? Okay, assuming there's no more speakers, we're gonna be ending this. Okay, now we are going for the Q&A session for per team. As you can see from the schedule, it's just 15 minutes. So in line with that, each team will be allocated 7 minutes and 30 seconds each. Okay? With that stated, this is how it will go. If those who are familiar with MUN in Q&A, this is a bit similar. So I will be moderating to make sure that each team gets to speak. All right. So there will be a team, and then the other team will ask questions, and anyone from that team can answer one question. Okay. So let me simplify this further in an example. Let's say Team Israel goes first. Then Team Palestine, one member of Team Palestine asks a question. Then the timer will not start. It will only start when somebody answers a question. And when that happens, there'll be continuous questions and answers. The question and answers will be ongoing throughout the time. Okay. So depending on how concise you ask a question or how concise you answer a question, it will maximize each team's Q&A. Okay? Are there any other further questions to me regarding that?
Yes, Honorable Chair.
Okay, go on.
I would just like to ask, when it comes to answering back in the Q&A, are we allowed to go back to a point that one of the delegates has made and ask a question directly to the delegates about such information as to how they received a certain part of their speech or no?
Okay, how about just you're asking that you can ask a follow-up question, am I correct?
Yes, correct, because I'd just like to state that I have some information that I would like to share and ask a follow-up question about such information as to how one of the delegates came to a conclusion of X topic.
Okay. Here's the thing. Just to be fair for all your teammates, if no one is asking a question after your first initial question, it's through the raise hand. It's through the raise hand. I will moderate to see and we'll choose who gets to ask. If nobody outside of you just raises his hand, you can make a follow. All right.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Chair.
And just to show that for any question that is thrown, only one speaker can answer that question. So for example, Team A's Divenyanka, if she answers Joseph's from Team B's question, Aditya cannot add on to that answer. Okay? That way everyone has a same amount of questions they can answer. Okay? Okay. So are there any other further questions before we begin the Q&A? The interactive Q&A? Gone. Okay, since there are no questions, we will begin. Team Israel will go first. Will go first in this. Whoever wants to ask a question regarding Team Israel from all their arguments and points, you may raise your hand now. Who wants to ask Team Israel a question? You may raise your hand.
Sorry, Chair, can you please repeat what you were saying? I'm really sorry, my connection just cut off.
Okay, Yamin from Team B. Okay, you may ask your question.
Thank you, Chair. My question basically what I would like to ask, how does Israel reconcile its refusal to allow Palestinian refugees the right to return to their homes, while at the same time encouraging Jewish people worldwide to return under the law of return? Thank you.
Okay, Simran, you may begin.
It's not like we are not allowing Palestinians the right to return to their home. It was a peace negotiation made by UN at first, in which a West Bank and Gaza Strip was allotted to Palestine, and the rest to Israel, and Jerusalem to UN. But Palestine, some sort of not it was not happy with that negotiation. So it was the first who started this conflict and wanted to acquire the whole state as one. So in retaliation to that, we had to counterattack the Palestinians, and we acquired the Palestine land. And it was not like we didn't allow the Palestinians to reside in their homes. We let them reside in their homes, but under the military control, so that the peace is maintained in the country.
Okay, thank you, Delegate. Now, any other questions? The timer is ongoing. Joseph, if you have a question, you may ask now.
Yes, Chair. The delegate of Israel, Simran, mentioned Hezbollah and Hamas being terrorist organizations. First off, when it comes to Hamas, they are a legitimate political party who have held the power that they had in Palestine due to fair and square elections and have arms funded by the governments of Israel, Jordan, and surprisingly your own, even you, Israel. Yes, you forgot to mention that you have even funded Hamas. Quite ironic, isn't it? The terrorist state funding the cause that they're fighting for, which apparently is terrorism. Whereas for its ally of Hezbollah, Hezbollah is a Lebanese political party who has two sects, one being a political party and the other is a militia, in which only the majority of the world knows to recognize the party, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. Hezbollah obtained its weapons after the Lebanese civil war legitimately, after the Ta'if agreement, which was moderated by the United Nations in Ta'if, Saudi Arabia, back in 1989. All political parties of Lebanon and the members of the United Nations allowed Hezbollah to keep its arms in order for the party to resist Israeli aggression against Lebanon and the region, making it the Islamic resistance of Lebanon. So, Simran and dear delegates of Israel, my question to you is, why did your military fund Hamas? P.S. I would like to add, if the chair allows me to, I can share my source to further confirm. Thank you.
Okay, so anyone can answer. Okay, Aditya, may answer.
Uh, First of all, Delegate, thank you so much for paraphrasing the entire situation. Firstly, there have been no official information regarding whether Israel or the IDF has funded or provided arms to Hamas. Secondly, yes, we have been indulged in negotiation with Hamas, but unfortunately, they have been of no use because what that organization seeks is to maintain a disruption of peace to maintain its funding in the name of so-called peace. Last but not the least, Hamas is not is indeed a terrorist organization. Now, calling that a legitimate organization is a very polemical point which you made, so we'll take it in that spirit. And just a gentle reminder again, the blasphemous attacks of 7th of October, the bus bombings in 2005, 1994, 1996 were instances of terrorism only. Now, if you call not shooting out civilians blatantly on the streets as a legitimate organization, I leave that up to your instinct.
Okay, thank you. With that stated, sorry, but Umber from Team B is also asking a question, so we have to entertain. So, Umber,
Yes, Chair, may I?
yes, go ahead.
Okay. Chair, Israel mentions of its security concerns, and I agree with that. And they say that they're only cleansing terrorists. That is also agreeable. But what does it have to say when over 75% of the people that were killed or affected in this whole war crime have been children and women? How do you call children as terrorists? The story of Hind. How was she a terrorist? The 5-year-old kid that was killed. The many children who have been found under rubble. How are they terrorists? What do you have to say for that?
Anyone from Team A can answer. Okay, Aditya.
Yes, again, yes, we are committed to ensuring peace in the region. Yes, we are committed to making an end to this war. But unfortunately, the organization which we are facing, Hamas, it doesn't really care about the civilian deaths, neither in Israel, surely not in Israel, and for sure not in Palestine. And that's why it has been using the innocent civilians in Palestine as human shield. Now, it is an utmost atrocity that an organization which claims to be a representative, which ultimately it is not, but which it claims to be a representative of the people, it is ultimately using such people as a human shield. So it is ultimately an atrocity, but we are very much committed to ensuring to not compromise our security for that.
Okay, thank you. So with that, Team B, Tosan, you also have a question. What is it?
Sir, can you please let my teammate Joseph go first?
All right, Joseph.
Hello. First off, Toshin, delegate of Palestine, fellow delegate of Palestine, thank you for passing on the time to talk to me. I would like to answer back to the delegate of Israel, Aditya, from Team A. I would just like to mention the further notion of, first off, exactly how Hamas and Hezbollah may be claimed to have been hiding near hospitals, churches, mosques, maybe any sort of civilian infrastructure. I understand when your attack against terrorism is on a certain area or towards a certain target, as you claim to have precise targets and hitting specific points. However, once you have a land such as Palestine for people to go to, whether a civilian is injured in a hospital, a Muslim is praying in a mosque, regardless of if they're Hamas member or not, does that give you the real right to bomb such mosque or such hospital? there are many innocent lives in those mosques, in those hospitals, in those civilian populated areas, as where to you would claim that there may be weapons of Hamas, or as where you may claim there are even weapons of Hezbollah. Now, the main question I would like to ask you is, of course, as I've previously, in fact, the Israeli army did actually support Hamas and give its own weapons to Hamas, the state of
All
Palestine.
right, thank
So
you.
my
I'm
question is,
sorry, Delegate. Sorry, Team B
yes,
and Team A, thank you, but that is the end. I said the timer's ongoing. You have to be mindful. You have to
okay,
be concise with your Q&A. Let that be
okay,
a lesson, okay?
okay, my
Uh,
apologies. Thank you, Chair.
okay, now we're going for the opposite. Now it is Team B's turn to be on the stand, and Team A to ask questions on Team B for their past arguments and rebuttals. So with that, wait, lower your hands first, lower hands. Are there any questions? You may raise your hands now from Team A. Okay, Divyanka, what's your question?
Thank you so much. My question to the opponent team is that they said that children and women are killed. Are they terrorists or not? So you can please tell me about that. When Hamas attacked on Israel, are have they saw that there are children, there are women or not? Or they specifically attacked on men's or the army only? Have they saw that? My question is this.
Anyone can answer. Okay, Joseph.
Hello, Delegate of Israel, Divyanka. First off, thank you for your concern. I would just like to say that, of course, when it comes to eye for eye, whether one person is dead or how you guys may respond, it may be fair to say, as I have previously mentioned, that if a group of people were murdered or martyred at a concert, do you think it's fair for you to go ahead and bombard a complete nation in its entirety just because of one incident, instead of holding those people that did cause the incident responsible for their actions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, the delegate Divyata, you can ask question.
Thank you, Chair. As we have seen, there were many peace negotiations, but they were failed at last. So my question to Palestinians is the Palestinian Authority, PA and Hamas, how they plan to address international political divisions that often stall peace efforts and complicate international support and negotiations and the ceasefire of the war. Thank you.
Okay, anyone from Team B? Okay, Joseph.
Yes, fellow delegate of Israel, I would like to add and conclude. I understand there must be no bias, as of course, in the introductory session, as y'all know, I am a Lebanese citizen. I would just like to say, when it comes to the notions of ceasefire and peace agreements, there have been multiple ceasefire and peace agreements set by the United Nations, by the government of Lebanon, although we still do not recognize the state as Israel, by Hamas and the state of Palestine, towards the Israeli military and the Israeli aggression that has been ongoing inside of the Middle East and in this region. So therefore, since we are the ones, and if not we as in Palestine or Lebanon, may it be known as we also as members of the United Nations have been and willing for Israel to have ceasefire agreements, may it be known that Israel is not the one accepting such ceasefire agreements, because Israel is worried that these Iranian proxies of Hezbollah and Hamas may actually get stronger over the time of the ceasefire and smuggle weapons into both countries, in which would give Israel a bigger disadvantage as to what we already have. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the delegates.
All right, next, a question from Aditya.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The delegate called for an eye to eye. So, just a reciprocation to that. Does the authorities in Palestine or in Gaza and West Bank look forward to hand over the militants from Hamas and hand over the remaining hostages in Gaza and put an end to the war. I mean, that's the most simple, most solution. So why don't just hand over the terrorists from Hamas, the remaining hostages, and put an end to the war and ensure safety of the civilians?
Okay. From team B, it's still Joseph. Okay. No, Yamin. This time,
Yes,
Yamin.
Yamin, go ahead, Yamin.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, I'd like to address that by saying it's critical to separate the actions of specific militant groups from the broader Palestinian civilian population, which is disproportionately affected by violence. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International report that humanitarian crisis is not merely a product of militant actions, but stems largely from systematic policies affecting Palestinian rights and freedoms. I'd like to also further mention that a lot of Israeli hostages are being put at in harm's way by Israel's onslaught of airstrikes. There's a lot of concerning elements that the hostages are not in good safety due to Israel's onslaught and airstrikes. Thank you.
Okay. Next, any other question? Any other questions? Okay. We're going to Simran.
If a two-state solution is to be accepted, what compromises are Palestinians willing to make to ensure Israel's security and recognition as a neighboring state?
Okay. Who will answer? Joseph.
Yes, fellow delegate of Israel. Of course, when it comes to the solution of a two-state solution that is being proposed, as I previously mentioned, that is the only goal that we seek in Palestine, is to have a two-state solution, bringing peace and harmony into the region. However, what will be implemented into this agreement? Of course, we will make sure that incidents like this with Hamas will not happen again. But however, we must make sure that no other funding of Israel may be made towards the funding of Hamas's military. And we must establish our own state of military, just as we may agree to have this two-state solution proposed and completed. Thank you.
All right. Next question on Divyata.
Thank you, Sure. As has been mentioned already, that they are getting donations from international organizations and countries respectively. So my question would be that how they are authorizing that the donation money is used for the direct benefit for the Palestinian people, like their health and education, and not for terror funding and weapons. Thank you.
Okay, Yamin.
To answer that question, to be completely honest, our funding, regardless of how much Palestine receives, is insufficient and improportional to how much damage Israel inflicts on Gaza and Palestine. Palestinians on the daily have to deal with humanitarian rights violations and international law being broken, especially in the West Bank. And there's been over 200 Palestinians that have died in the West Bank. And this doesn't even have to do with the airstrikes in Gaza. So I'd like to say is that regardless of how much money Palestine receives, it will never be enough because Israel continuously destroys our infrastructure and makes it impossible to rebuild anything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Aditya, but time has out. But thank you, delegates, for this interactive Q&A session. So with that stated, we are now proceeding towards the last part of your engagement is now we're going to the closing statements. Okay? So it's just simple. After everything you have discussed, after everything you've debated against each other, okay? You now make a closing statements that helps encapsulates your arguments towards each other. Okay. So each team has 5 minutes. So with that, with that stated, the closing statements, the first one to make their closing statements will be the team of Team D, Palestine. In Palestine, you may begin.
Chair, may I? Yes. Am I audible, Chair? Chair, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, delegates and Chair. Today brims with a great sense of responsibility and commitment to resolving the long and devastating conflict. However, why must this wage of war, a war that is not only political, but it is also the demise of humanitarian rights, continue? It affects not only the people, but the civil. It not only affects the terrorist, so-called terrorist groups, but it also affects the civilians. Why must the citizens be heard when over 60% of Israel itself wants a ceasefire, when all of Gaza wants a ceasefire, when 67% of America that funds the military, wants ceasefire? Why must this wage of war continue? And when the future of our world demands a ceasefire, why must this go on? We recognize the importance of international organization and their collaboration to bring an end to this. This is not only urgent, but it is also the need that we must all acknowledge. Instead of fighting against Israel or against Palestine, we must acknowledge the fact that peace is our ultimate goal. We urge Israel to their forces to recede, retreat, illegal settlements, and expansion of borders. We urge strict enforcement of international law and the implementation of UNGA Resolution 194 that regards with compensation. Today, we stand with hands open to collaborate with the member states and together create a change that the world wishes to see. And in the end, I would like to mention, when I stayed up to watch the stars, I never meant my loved ones. When I said home is a person, I never meant for it to come to this. When I'm torn of my people, stripped of my refuge and my home. When I said I love watching the white clouds, I do not mean the missiles. When I longed for winter, I never meant for humanity's cruelty. When I said dress me red this Eid, I did not wish for my father's blood to be stained. When my father prayed for our heads kept high, I did not pray. I hope he did not pray that mine rise above where his stay under rubble. When I said I loved fireworks, I didn't mean they could burn me too. Yet I still hope one day the clouds will gather, but only to rain, and flowers will bloom across the streets of my land. And as for the stars, we'll still be watching. Towards peace, let us all work together. And in the end, let us recognize the need for justice rather than blaming each other's country. Thank you.
Okay, Chair, I'll be going next. Today, we are, Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, today we are here to discuss a matter of profound injustice, a reality that millions of Palestinians endure daily. This issue is not merely a series of unfortunate incidents, but a systematic denial of basic human rights. The people of Palestine have endured decades of occupation, restricted movement, and limited access to essential resources such as water, food, healthcare, and all under conditions to violate international law, which the opposition has failed to defend their violations of international law. While much focus has been placed on the actions of groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, it is essential to understand the wider context in which these groups emerged. They arose in response to the occupation, the denial of sovereignty, and the lack of a political pathway for Palestinians to secure their rights. The entire population cannot and should not be collectively blamed for the actions of a certain faction, as doing so obscures the larger issue, the denial of their fundamental human rights. Blaming all Palestinians for the actions of Hamas or Hezbollah diverts the attention from the need for real, lasting solutions that address the root causes of the conflict. Palestinian authorities have historically shown a willingness to engage in peace processes. From the Oslo Accords to the Arab Peace Initiative, which offered a two-state solution that respected the rights and sovereignty of both Palestinians and Israelis. These initiatives show a clear commitment to peace and coexistence. However, systematic issues such as continued settlement expansion, land confiscation, and restrictions on movement hinder any real progression towards peace. The Fourth Geneva Convention, to which Israel is a signatory, prohibits collective punishment and mandates the occupying powers ensure the welfare of civilian population. However, the ongoing blockade of Gaza has led to the humanitarian crisis that impacts over 2 million Palestinians. who now lack basic necessities. According to the reports of United Nations and Amnesty International, the blockade constitutes collective punishment and a direct violation of international law. Let us not lose sight of the fundamental issues. This is not a matter of justifying one group or demonizing another. This is a call for justice, for acknowledgement of Palestinian rights, and for a two-state solution that allows both Palestinians and Israelis to live in peace and dignity. If we are to genuinely pursue peace, we must first address the violation of international law and human rights that lie at the heart of the conflict. Thank you.
All right, delegates. All right. Thank you. Thank you. So now we are going with the final interaction with all the delegates here. If you'd like the schedule, this will be discussion on the on a final resolution. So how does this work?
Chair,
Okay.
I believe we are left with our conclusion.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Team is
Sorry.
here. No issue.
Sorry about that. Okay, yeah. Sorry, Team Israel, you may begin when ready.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. As a delegate of Team A, I would like to state that a two-state solution is achievable, but it requires mutual recognition, including Israel's right to exist is respectable. Plus, extremism is when replaced by diplomacy will lead to peace. And unless neither power is broken, peace will remain out of reach. And so we can conclude that for the war to come at an end after so many decades, we need a just side from both the sides. So we believe the Palestinian side should respect the Jews and their rights, but also we'll also further add new peace thoughts to the other side. And we believe that peace is achieved by compromisation and cohesion. And now I would like to further the stage to the next speaker.
It is crucial to recognize Israel's rights to exist as a sovereign nation. The historical context provides a legitimate foundation for Israel's claim to the land and its ongoing commitment to the society. Past peace initiatives and agreements illustrate Israel's commitment to finding a solution that respects the rights and aspirations of both Israelis and Palestinians. However, these efforts have been undermined by violence and refusal from certain Palestinian fractions to acknowledge Israel's right to exist. Israel's focuses on protecting the lives of citizens and fostering a stable, peaceful environment for future generations. The region requires a commitment from all the parties to work towards a future where both Israel and Palestine can coexist peacefully, and only through mutual acknowledgement of each other's rights we can hope to achieve a comprehensive and a lasting peace. I would now like to pass on the stage to my fellow delegate.
While we converge on a need for settlement of disputes to ensuring lasting peace in the region, a four-step solution of TIDE is essential, where T is for a two-state solution, where a secured Israel exists alongside a Palestinian recognition of its territories. I is for international cooperation in mediation and guarantees for any agreements reached. D is for demilitarization of Palestinian territories to prevent it from being used as a base for attacks on Israel. And E is for economic cooperation, initiatives regarding which would contribute in fostering stability and create mutual dependence. We are here because we recognize the immense power of working together, because we realize that by listening to each other and acting together, we can make this world a better place to live. It is when we and only when we collectively move towards such solutions can we gather meaningful results. As alone, we can. Together, we will. I'd like to pass the floor to my fellow delegate now.
Thank you so much. Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. The Israel-Palestine conflict requires empathy, understanding, and compromise. And it is a complex, multifaceted issue with valid concerns and perspectives on both the sides. A negotiated two-state solution remains a widely supported option internationally. And this would involve Israel and a future Palestinian state coexisting with Jerusalem as a shared capital. And international law and community, they all recognize Israel's sovereignty. And we urge acknowledgement of Israel's security concerns, condemnation of Palestinian terrorism, support for peaceful negotiations. And in conclusion, I would just seek that Israel seeks peace, security, and coexistence. And we remain committed to resolving conflicts through diplomacy and compromise. Thank you.
Anyone
Israel was
else?
found. Yes. Israel was founded 76 years ago to establish a separate state for Jewish people to live in peace and harmony post World War II, and today it still exists. Since the first day of Israel's existence, the enemy has been attacking, and Israel has been fighting for its existence. As we discussed about the criminal offenses from Palestinian side and excessive force that Israel had to use under specific circumstances that we do condemn, I conclude that the coexistence without war but peace is possible. A free Palestine is possible, but Hamas or any other form of violence is not the solution. Israel has the right to exist, as
Thank you.
everybody has.
Thank you, Marcel. I'm sorry, but time has run out. Thank you for your closing statements. Just a reminder, be wary of the time as always. So now we are going with the very last part. Now that the closing statements have occurred, now we're gonna talk about the final resolution discussion. Basically, the participants, you have 10 minutes. This is open to all. You can interact with each other. Basically, both teams can mingle if they want to discuss a potential resolution. You can decide whether you can make a resolution to resolve this kind of thought, this agenda, like in an MUN, if you participated in MUN, or depending on how it goes. Okay, the moderators or panelists will be observing how you go with your discussion. With that stated, the 5 minutes on discussion on a final resolution begins now. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hello.
I think
Hello, everybody.
we all conclude on the fact that we all want peace. So it would be better there that we cooperate together upon the
Yes.
draft resolution.
Yes, of course.
Just
Yeah,
a
I mean-
question for Yata. I just want to, in order for peace, it's to also acknowledge international law and the rights of the Palestinians. So I want to ask, how will we both agree to a resolution that acknowledges your guys' responsibility for international law? What's your guys' plan to prevent illegal expansion in the West Bank? How are you going to help rebuild Gaza? And
Precisely, I
and-
mean that's a
yeah,
good point.
and-
We have to make sure that we get a comprehensive DR where we ensure Israel's safety and the safety of Palestinians as well, and that is what we are here for. I think we list down our points.
Yeah, but also speaking on the safety of Palestinians, there's also a lot of reports about mistreatment of Palestinians in Israeli jails, inhumane treatment. So I just wanted to ask, do you have anything on that can also prevent
Yes.
that kind of bad treatment?
Yes, yeah, I think we believe that to the Palestinians who are mainly Arab citizens who live in Israel, they are also beneficiaries of several government schemes. There are certain Arab language courses which are for which Arab citizens are educated in Israeli institutions. So yes, are committed to ensuring the safety and availing the basic rights of Palestinians in Israel's territory.
Yes.
But there are 60 laws that have been cited that are discriminatory.
Can you name one?
And so what's the name? It's according to the thingy, to the minority report. I'll have to bring it up because I do have a lot of thingies. Just give me time for that.
Yes, fellow
But yeah,
delegates.
go on. What were you going to say? Oh, yes, Joseph.
Hi.
Yes, fellow delegates. Although I understand where Yamin is coming from, he is a member of my team, and although Aditya is not a member of my team, but however, we are planning the resolution, and I understand the
Right.
points that have been made are completely valid. Therefore, as a delegate of Palestine, I believe it is right that we do not look into the depths of exactly how one can fix themselves, but exactly how each country can fix themselves by themselves. So, for example, when it comes to Israel's
Yes, right.
aggression on Hamas, we should make sure, as as the delegate of Israel, they should make sure that Israel does not compose any further aggression against Palestine, whereas Palestine should actually enable or maybe disable, sorry, a militia which may be considered to be Hamas, and actually go ahead and establish a military of its own. Therefore, I believe when I went back to say exactly how Israel did fund Hamas with its weapons, perhaps maybe Israel, instead of funding Hamas, they should fund the Palestinian military, as an example. And of course, when it comes to these massacres where, for example, people get killed in concerts, on holidays, or whatever it may be, that the whole of the nation should not be held responsible for the action of a small party, or if not a small party, maybe just even a group of people. As an example, of course, everybody here has their own distinguished and beloved hometown. Let's say, for example, a neighboring hometown came and destroyed your hometown or destroyed your house, sorry. Would you go and would you destroy the entire town? No, I don't think it's logical, in my personal opinion. So therefore, what I think we should do is, I may be talking a lot. If anybody may want to disrupt me, go ahead. I would just like to
Okay.
say that I believe that we should look within ourselves to solve the conflict instead of looking upon others. Thank you.
Yes.
We
So,
agree with the stance, but
excuse me.
also
Also,
like to
Sure.
add that we should like coexistence of both the states together with peace between both of them. Plus, Palestine also recognizing Israel as a rightful state, and also Israel do the same. So for that, we vouch for international cooperation between these two states, and also a peace treaty, final and last peace treaty to be sure.
Okay.
Yes, Divyata, I would just like to add, sorry, delegate of Israel, that when it does come to the notion of Hezbollah, I would just like to say that Hezbollah cannot be exactly recognized as a state. However, they are a political party. So therefore, what I may suggest when it comes to Hezbollah, we keep Hezbollah maybe out of the discussion because Hezbollah has nothing to do with our country since we are delegates of Palestine and not delegates of Lebanon. Although me as a delegate of Palestine, I am Lebanese. I will take that bias out of this discussion, and we should strictly focus upon Hamas, Palestine, and Israel and its military as to how we can solve the conflict between us before we get outside factors involved into the conflict. Thank you.
Allow me to
Delegates,
keep a two-step solution.
excuse me.
Right away. Mhm.
Am I okay?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, as we talk about drafting a resolution, yeah, I think blaming each other is simply pathetic. So I think we should talk about how
Precisely.
you talked about medical treatment being provided to the Palestinians. There's a question. If medical treatment is being provided, then why are there so many cases of patients dying due to delayed or denials? I think we can fix that. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not asking anybody questions, but I feel that must be fixed. That is something medical treatment, blockage. I feel like 80% of people in Gaza, yeah, they survive only on international aids, and blocking them of that and denying them of those things, I think it is only more misery and adding more misery to their already the state that they are in, if that's understood.
Mhm.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
so in
I
this
think we
resolution,
be opposed to
we
solution.
I think we should go back to the two-state negotiation as proposed by the UN.
Yeah, but that
Yes.
that has to be a via process. Maybe
Apologies.
What?
allow me to keep a few allow me to keep a solution over here.
Sure.
Firstly, is the exchange of hostages is imperative.
Jasmine.
Secondly,
Yeah, first,
a ceasefire between the two countries. Third,
Yeah.
humanitarian aid, which provides essential supplies at first to the civilians in Gaza. Fourth, recognizing Israel and Israel recognizing Palestine on the basis that Palestine will have a civilian elected leadership and not a leadership like Hamas. Lastly, a demilitarization of the Palestine territory to ensure that it is not being used by proxy groups again for an attack on Israel. What do we say?
Can I?
Yes,
agree.
delegate.
Yeah. So, to address your question about the discriminatory laws, because with respect to your question, So the advocacy group that I mentioned about the 65 laws in Israel that discriminate against Palestine, some of the few one have to do with citizenship and residency laws, such as citizenship and entry into Israel law prevents Palestinian family unification if one spouse is from the occupied territory or certain countries, limiting their right to family life. The land and property rights, the absentee property law of 1950 enables Israel to take control of properties belonging to Palestinian refugees who fled or were expelled, impacting Palestinian property rights and access to land. Political rights, exclusion of laws and the majority in the Knesset to remove members from statements or actions deemed supportive of terrorism or Israel. And I'll be honest, we don't have much time, but that's basically one of the very few, just out of respect to your question, Nadiacha.
Yeah, no, I understand. As delegate, we do have certain restrictions upon other citizens entering upon our country. We do that for the safety, just like any other country does. Now, coming back to the resolution, what do we say upon the proposal? The five.
We need an immediate
Like we-
ceasefire.
So
We
also
need
in this,
humanitarian aid. Yes, please continue, Dushan.
Yeah.
yeah, also in this resolution, we have to mainly focus on the safety of civilians and safety of everyone. So firstly, we have to strengthen the laws, and if some of the laws are broken, uh, uh, if some of the laws are broken, we have to take like heavy actions, and we have to impose heavy fines or jailing or something, and we have to start campaigns so that people are aware that if some of the laws are broken, they will know that they are accountable and they will not be like
Exactly.
they will not
Yes.
roam freely and say that they will go under some consequences. So Amber, please continue.
And
Yeah, Israel must be held accountable. There is no change in that. There's no leverage in that, and there has to be strict compensation for the Palestinian people, considering they have lost so much. Not a single official body that's governing them, even though they are being governed by different bodies. I feel like a compensation and accountability is heavily needed in this issue. With that,
Israel is very
Any proper
is very much
implementations of
dedicated to
all the
partnering,
schemes
but
discussed.
yes,
and
So
also
also there should
we
be
must
like
also
all the
acknowledge the
government,
violation of
NGOs,
international
and the
laws. Thank
civil
you.
organizations. Everyone should take part
Time's up,
to.
guys. Fellow delegates, our time is up.
Okay, thank you
guys.
for minding the time, delegates. Okay. So that is the conclusion. So there has been a fail to create a resolution, but it's okay. This was also testing to see how you are negotiating and how each team tries to contribute towards the end goal of the discussions to which we panelists have been observing. So with that stated, we will go for to not leave. We will go for a 10-minute recess, and then we will be going with the ending ceremony. Please do not leave this Zoom, okay? Do not leave this Zoom. You can take this as a break time and just have a nice rest first, but do not leave the Zoom.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Understood.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank
Okay. Now that we're all free to talk, let's discuss.
yeah.
Okay.
I hope a chair that is allowed.
Yeah, so I
It
mean,
is.
if I were to say it simply, it's a step-by-step process. First, it's two-state solution, so that means defined borders. We need to
Right.
agree on which defined borders do we have, and
Let's
also
talk about immediate situations first, maybe, no, because
yeah.
like two-state solution is a long way. Like that isn't happening in already stable countries that are already stable. They are not able to govern, like they are not able to sort things out. And like two countries that are already in turmoil, we cannot expect a two-state solution as of now. So let's talk about immediate solutions.
So firstly,
Okay,
we have to
yeah,
focus on
Anurag.
short-term solutions. So this short-term solutions should not only bound to like within a 1 year. So it should be like extendable. So what I mean is like it should be like continuing for years and years, but main focus should be in the present and short-term solutions rather than long-lasting solutions.
Yes, exactly, Aditya. What I agree with you is that not only should it be long lasting and that we should have the resolutions, but however, it's not about just having resolutions. As my personal opinion, we must understand not that we just have resolutions, but exactly how we implement them. and to make sure they are implemented properly, such as another example, if I may add, that in Lebanon, we have many resolutions against Israeli invasions in the south, such as 1701, 15 something, and 1600 something. So when it comes to those kind of resolutions, it's not about just setting the resolution and just having it. You know what I mean? It's about implementing the resolution and to make sure that the resolutions are sustained properly and through a third party negotiator. But I would like to apologize. I would just like to pass it to Toshin because he's notifying me. He wants to add on to what I would like to say. So continue, Delegate Toshin of Palestine.
So firstly, all the bodies should voice out, and everyone should be involved. Like the government should be involved to address the whole country, and NGOs should be involved to voice out the poor or any other specific group or any other specific socio-economic group. And there should also be groups which are formed by the uh, civilians, because they are the one who went through whole conflict, and they are the one who lost the most. So we can like make a better reserve, and we can get better solutions by talking to them. Then also all the conflicts which took place in the past, they should not be let gone easily. There should be investigation, and we have to again make sure that no one is harmed in this investigation, and the whole process is through the terms of peace. I pass it on to Amber.
Okay, I believe that this entire war conflict that's happening. It's not only between two states. It's not between Israel and Palestine. It is more. It includes the neighboring states. It includes so many other aspects, be it political, geopolitical, religious as well. Because East Jerusalem is a very Jerusalem itself is a very sensitive topic,
It
considering
does
both of these
include
states.
all the aspects, Delegate. You are very right on that. But somewhere,
But
like,
let me
since
finish
you
that,
spoke of
please. I'm
since
trying
you
to
spoke
do.
of
I'm trying to say
inclusiveness,
something,
so
delegate.
we'll try
Please.
to make
Yeah.
it inclusive.
Okay.
Delegate,
You
wait,
talk about.
one at
I
a
think you're
time.
Yeah,
interrupting.
sure.
Actually, Amber is speaking. Let her continue, please.
Thank you.
I
See,
think
you
3 delegates from the Palestine side would be too much at once,
we
so
don't.
we'll
Nothing is
keep
too
it
much. Nothing
distributed.
is too much when it's right.
We'll
Anyways.
keep it
How-
distributed.
Okay, let
Okay.
me just
We'll keep it
interject.
distributed.
Let me just interject here.
Okay, Amber,
Has
just like
has
pass it to
has,
Yemi.
has Team A spoken yet? So far,
Pardon?
well, how many speakers have we spoken? Like, have you spoke yet?
I
Okay,
didn't get you. Could you come
Yeah,
again?
because
If I
like
may,
there's
if I may
been
add,
I
guys.
think all of
One
our
last
focus
point,
has really
guys.
been to get a
ladies and
delegate.
gentlemen, fellow
All
delegates,
of us.
as of now, there were 2 speakers from Israel and 3 speakers from Palestine. Thank you.
okay. So then I think respectfully should
So
just
we
even it
have
out
five
again,
five
make it
on each
fair.
side, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Team
if there's
team
any
What the point of
delegate of
that?
Israel that would like to talk, they may go ahead.
yeah, out of
Yeah, sure.
respect for quality.
Of course.
Well, as a delegates as well, we believe that we should have authority, a legitimate authority, which confers the donation and also the humanitarian aid, so that these things will be given to the people who are in need of them, and not to other organizations and other someone who is corrupted, so that we can give the useful need to the persons who are actually in need. And now I'll like to this further someone else.
Yamin, go ahead. Delegate of Palestine, Yamin. You're there.
Oh yes, sorry, apologies. Sorry, it's just breaking up. But basically, taking in everything that I've also considered, especially since Adiata mentioned, I feel like we should also recommend the main points for our resolution. So obviously, number 1, ceasefire. Number 2, agreed exchange of hostages for both sides, both Palestinian and Israeli. Number
Agreed.
3, obviously, is what Amber meant, which is the long-term plan, which is 2-state solution. And then the final thing would be monitoring through the UN to ensure that both parties are acting in good faith and they're sticking to international law. Thank you.
That
So,
works, but
as I
for
have
that,
already
there has to be
mentioned,
a responsible government in Gaza and West Bank. Unless and until what we are going to see is a recurrence of violation of agreements like the 1994, 1996 to 2014 ceasefire agreement, 2018 ceasefire agreement, a violation of human rights. In fact, in Gaza itself, there have been instances of violation, discrimination against women in Gaza, women in West Bank. So how do we even expect an organization which discriminates against its own people in its own territory, expect that organization to represent its people on the international stage? So for that, there has to be an election in Gaza, which has been postponed for 2 decades now. Now that is abrogation of the rights of the innocent people of Gaza, which is the right to elect their leaders. And
Okay,
lastly, there has to be a demilitarization in Gaza.
okay, it is
Unless and
ironic that
until
you speak about the rights of the people, because Israel basically has violated every humanitarian and international law there has been. And then talking about the people of Gaza and like their right to vote, I think it is very important that we mention that. But it is also important that we acknowledge Israel has crossed all boundaries of, in the name of security concerns. I think Israel has crossed every boundary and violated every law there is and every resolution by UN according like that regards with this conflict. Thank you. Passing it on to
the
Toshan.
exchange of hostages.
Then also I have spoke about investigations. These investigations, again, I'm mentioning it. They hold responsible parties and they show that they're accountable for their activities. So this can be taken to next level when the journalists come in place. So this journalist help to show to the whole world that who is innocent and who isn't innocent. Then this can be further taken to next level when there are more monitoring mechanisms taking place or any campaigns which is helping the people, like 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 because it shows who they're accountable for. This can be again taken to next level by the journalist uh, showcasing it.
Toshan, just let me interject here. I'd just like to give more time now to the team A. We'd like to hear from your side. Two of our speakers have spoken. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I think yes, we do emphasize upon the need of economic upliftment, but again and again, even reiteration is not really plausible in diplomacy. But yeah, there has
Okay.
to be a responsible government.
Delegates.
I think we have a minute, Chair.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
sure.
Chair.
As you said.
Do you want to end it quick because we're done deliberating? You want to end this now? We can also have
Yeah,
more
sure,
time for
sure.
feedback. All right.
Okay,
Yes,
sure,
sure.
Chair. Sure, Chair.
All right. So from after a conversation and evaluating and taking notes of your performances, so we just came off with a conclusion. So this is now the awards. So first of all, I'm gonna be announcing the best debater amongst all of you from either side. The best debater for having the most well-researched and constantly having something new to share on the discussion and coming back to his stance. It comes from Team B, Yamin S. Samrod. Congratulations for being best debater.
I appreciate the award, Chair. Thank you so much to
For
my
verbal
fellow delegates.
commendation for also being a passionate speaker and also doing his research as well. We go to Joseph from Team B. Now for the best team for the overall team award, best team. The best team award goes to the team that has the most balanced roster, being able to participate and each one able to try to help complement each other. It goes to Team A, the Israel. Congratulations. Now for individual feedback. Okay. So just to be concise, it's like for example, from Team A, like Marshall and Basir, uh, I would like to see you guys speak up more outside of your team effort, much more individualized nuances, much more instead of just role players supporting roles like that. Those are things that we need to work on to help you better in the debate. It also helps elevate your team, especially the one who doesn't win from the team that didn't win best team. Teamwork is actually very important. Since there were 5 players, every person counts, contributing to the discussion. Okay? You're only as strong as your weakest link. Sort of. So when you go to another like live debate like this, for IMUN, you have to really prioritize on your team building, your team synergy. Okay, so people like Devyata, Simran, or Tosan, you're also great, more like complementary wingmen. You have very strong advocacy. You have some advocacies that help support some of your leading speakers here and there. I appreciate that. You need to work. You need to. Well, what happened? Why did Joseph leave? You satisfied? Or is he having net issues?
I believe
Okay.
technical issues.
It's a network
Okay.
issue, Chair. I'll check with him.
Okay. I thought he was already satisfied after winning an award, so
Oh
he just
no,
left.
Chair, he's back. He's back.
Hello, Chair. No, sorry, my apologies. My device is just heating up. I'm sorry.
Okay, basically, you need to have some more research to help complement your team and to help add on. Much more, you're more reverberating what they said, but you're much more active in Q&A, so that gives you much more notice. Okay, Aditya, you're actually one of the louder ones, but always constantly on defense about the Hamas does not also help. You have to try to tackle some of the Oslo Accords, the two-state solutions, and why to help justify Israel. This goes to similar to now for like Divyanka, you're one of the you're like the most active and most well-researched speaker, but you need to work on actively trying to engage on much more scrutinized discussions, such as the Oslo Accords, some of the why you talk. You could actually improve by discussing about the justification of Hamas and the ongoing historical context, which you don't really hit hard as much as you could. Umber, my former delegate, you have to slow down. That's very important. Sometimes if you don't slow down, it will be much harder for the panelists to understand. It actually affects your assessment. Having a lot of content is good, but speaking it so fast to the point that it cannot be understood is a double-edged sword. No matter how great your content is, if you have bad delivery, it actually makes it much more lackluster. Okay, so with that, with some of our two best performing debaters, Joseph, you have the best delivery amongst all the debaters here. It's actually very eloquent. Problem is that you keep sticking to, again, some of the problem is keep sticking to the basic stance. The violations, the violations, human rights, and you try to put your own personal experience, but maybe you could have pointed out for more from a country's perspective. Those things can work.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Understood.
Okay, and lastly, I mean, when it comes to research, keep doing it. The base research is solid. I think you could be much better from your delivery when you talk about the Oslo Accords and the brick by brick, outside of just talking about the blockades, the human rights violations. Maybe you could state that more, and then the gritty details of how Israel failed to uphold any of it, and that Palestine was just a victim for the whole historical context. So those are things as I can pick up.
Chair.
This was a short debate, and there were a lot of debaters, more so. Now I want to ask for our special attendee, Singapore, Shusika from the WHO. How was this for you? Observing, please.
I think it was a really nice experience to hear from both the sides, and they had very nice, well-researched points, and like there was a lot of teamwork, especially in like an online forum, and with the time restrictions that were there, it was really nice to listen to. I think that's what.
Okay. Joseph, you have anything?
Yes, Honorable Chair. Just wanted to thank you for moderating the debate. And I just wanted to ask, will the recording of the debate be present for us to access after we're done?
You can just go to YouTube since it's live.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Thank you, Chair.
Okay, in any case, that is it. Chairman Monesh, is there anything else we can end this properly?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, I have
Okay, we
a
can
small
end.
Thank you,
question.
Chair.
Okay, what is it?
Sorry, just to make sure, does verbal commendation get any kind of reward or no?
It's an award without a certificate, unfortunately. But
Okay.
but it's considered formal because it's even announced live, so that's proof. You acknowledge.
Right, of course. Okay.
If you
Thank
want
you, Chair. I
if you want
appreciate
a
it.
more formal certificate, join again and make sure your team at least wins best team or at least be the best debater.
Of course. Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Chair. Okay. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it.
Chair, can I also say something? Just also like to thank all delegates that have attended today. It's been really eventful, and I really appreciate the energy and the debating going. I actually quite like debating quite a bit. But I just like to thank everyone that came today, especially the chairs that took time out of their day to come here today. Thank you.
If I may add something. Yeah, sure. It was Socrates who used to roam around, spreading his words of wisdom with them, telling them what to do, what not to do, what is right and what is wrong. People poisoned him, and henceforth I'll keep my address short. And yeah, it was a delight to engage with all the delegates, with of course with the chair, with the lovely chair. Your guidance has been immensely helpful, and it was great to see the action amongst the audience as well. We saw some comments on the YouTube that have been really engaging, that have been really meaningful. And by the way, none of this may necessarily reflect our personal point of views, so we expect of not receiving DMs after the event. And yeah, it was a delight to engage with my fellow delegates, with the honorable chair, and I look forward to being in such conferences in the near future as well.
Thank you, Chair. I truly appreciate it and hope to see you in further debates and further conferences.
Okay, as in Chairman Monesh, I think we can end already since everything's good.